Hello and welcome to another video. You guys, for this video, I want to talk about some of the stocks that I'm personally going to be swing trading into the month of November. So we all know that October has been pretty intense. There's been a lot of volatility in the market. We have the government shutdown. We've had conversations around tariffs. And so all of that stuff affects the market, and we've seen that. And we've seen that the market has, again, been very volatile. We've seen those dramatic drops. And I did want to talk a little bit about what that looks like and why we are seeing what we're seeing. So some people are fearing that we might enter a bear market, but even the last couple of weeks, every time we've seen some of those sharp drops, we've also seen the market recover. And so we are not officially in a bear market. I'm still staying pretty optimistic for Q4. However, we do want to be mindful of what those drops mean and what we can do about them when they do happen. So I always talk a little bit about panic selling. I personally haven't really sold much of my portfolio. I've taken profits, or I've trimmed in certain areas where I've reached, 100 or 200% profit, but I also am big on just buying and holding. So most of my positions and most of the shares that I hold in my long-term portfolio, I'm just really holding, and I'm definitely going to ride out Q4 and see how they perform. And then I will kind of figure out my strategy for the year to come, so 2026. But so far, I'm pretty happy with where my portfolio is at. I have some really cool new stocks that I've been not only watching but also adding to my portfolio in Q3. And so at this point, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at as far as my average goes for my position. So I've talked about this in my previous videos. If you haven't watched any of my previous videos, a lot of these stocks that I'm mentioning, talking about swing trading, I've also talked about adding them to your portfolio when they are kind of either taking a dip or a pullback or even a correction. And so I have built out my portfolio, and I've done a lot of dollar cost averaging throughout the year. So at this point, I'm just kind of, happy with where that is at, and I'm going to focus more on my swing trades for the remainder of the year. So with that being said, I did want to start off by talking about some of the stocks that I'm personally going to be swing trading into November, maybe even December. I have noticed that my performance is usually a lot better when I buy my contracts out like 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks out, because that actually gives you a little bit more time for your contract to hit the price that you need it to hit in order to take profit. So for those of you who day trade, that is an amazing skill. And if you've been able to be profitable in that way, I commend anybody that can do that. Me personally, because I do have, again, my day job, I tend to usually do my swing trades. That way I can actually look at my brokerage and decide when to take profit. And it doesn't really interrupt my normal day-to-day. I can still do, my job. I can still go to the gym. I can still hang out with friends and family. And so I'm not really sitting at a chart and spending my full day just, scalping and trying to figure out when to hop in and when to hop out. So that's why I like talking about swing trading, because I feel like it's also more realistic for people who don't necessarily want to be a trader. Like, they don't want to be a day trader, but they still want to have either extra income or learn a new skill set. This is definitely something that you're able to pair with a regular job, that you're able to pair with being a parent. For example, if you're a full-time mom or if you're a full-time dad, these are ways that you can actually make some income and not be glued to your computer. Now, I will say that it doesn't mean that it doesn't require some research. It doesn't mean that it doesn't require you actually taking time to analyze charts, but you are able to be flexible with that. For example, me, I'm someone who on Sunday nights, I like to actually sit and look at the charts and see what's going on, and I'll look at the movement going into Monday, for example. And so there are ways to make it work for you. You just have to take a little bit more time to understand the market, how it moves, and when to actually go in and how long to hold your contracts for. So to start off, I wanted to talk about CoreWeave, which is one of the stocks that I've actually been trading more recently. So CoreWeave is ticker symbol CRWV, currently at around $132. This is a stock that actually did take a pretty significant pullback, and it's reached in the 170s, 180s before. So personally, again, I'm someone who likes to look at those opportunities. When I see those pretty big gaps, that's typically when I like to actually hop into trades. I don't really like to hop into trades when I see that the stocks are close to their all-time highs. There is earnings season, like we are in earnings season, so there are times where even if a stock is at an all-time high, I may dabble a little bit. But I've also learned that earnings doesn't always mean that the stock will go up, even if the earnings report is good. So I am a little bit more cautious about that. I don't like gambling my money. I like to really like look at the gaps and figure out, okay, does it make sense? Is it going to make a significant movement for me to actually profit off of this? And if not, I rather stay out or sit out. And there are times where you sit out and you see a big move and you're kind of like, dang, I could have been in there. But that's okay. We're not in it for those like one and done type of movements. We're in it because we want to learn the skill set and we want to make this something that we can repeat over and over again. And so that's really what I focus on, is just repeatable price action, repeatable like levels that I see. And again, marking my support, marking my resistance, and moving off of that, as opposed to being like, oh, I don't want to sit out on this because there's a chance that this stock will fly up after earnings and I'm going to miss out on making X amount of money. So personally, that's just my strategy. If you like trading earnings, that's cool too. Just know that it is a little bit more risky and you may, end up losing some money. So I'm only saying that because it's happened to me before. All right, so the first one was CoreWeave. The second one is another one that's newer for me. It's called Oklo. That's ticker symbol OKLO. I've mentioned these in my previous videos, and I always talk about whenever I build out my watch list, I try to stick with the same stocks, because once you start like watching a chart for a specific stock, you start to analyze and recognize patterns within that stock, and that actually makes it easier for you to see the levels, and it makes it easier for you to see when you need to enter and exit the market. So that's usually why I say build out your watch list, watch those charts, and then start to analyze where is a good place to get in and where is a good place to get out. Where's a good place to get in? Any support levels. Where's a good place to get out? Any resistance levels. If it breaks through resistance, you can hold a little bit longer, but just know that it's probably going to end up falling right back to that resistance level until it completely breaks through and you see that stocks fly up. A good example of that is AMD. AMD is currently at about $254. This is one that I personally I have shares of this in my long-term portfolio, but I'm not necessarily doing too much of options trading, just because that isn't like an all-time high. And so I don't really like trading all-time highs, because you never know when it's going to come crashing back down. Again, once that resistance level is tested a couple of times, it usually does fall a little bit. So I am not really doing much with AMD right now. Palantir and Nvidia are ones that I'm always looking at, that I'm always trading. But for this video, okay, so we have CoreWeave, Oklo. I did want to talk about a third one called Alibaba. So this is a newer one that I've been trading that I've been really liking. It's ticker symbol BABA. And it's not a new stock, it's just new to me, to my watch list, and new to me actually taking some trades on. So it's currently sitting at around $174. It's probably gone up a little bit in the pre-market today, but this year it's reached around $192 before. So again, I see that pretty nice gap in those prices. I don't see it being too close to the all-time high, so I probably will end up trading that all the way up until I see it reach close to 190, which is the level of resistance that we've seen. So that's that one. And then I did want to mention one more, which is Robinhood. That is ticker symbol HOOD. Robinhood is one that I've talked about a lot in my previous videos. I've added Robinhood to my portfolio, my long-term portfolio, and I've also taken some trades, some contracts, swing trades. It's currently sitting at around $140. Again, this is another one that's gone up since market closed on Friday, so pre-market's already showing signs of being up, which is also a good thing. I think it's around $144 now, but Hood is one that has reached up to the 150s. So there is a couple of dollars there that I might actually take some contracts and swing trade them into November to see if it hits that level and then take my profits. I'm big on when you see profit, you take profit because of the volatility of the market, because of the conversations, because you never know when news is going to come out, or you never know when the president's going to say tariffs on China. Although there's been some conversation about that's supposed to be positive news, that's supposed to impact the market positively. But again, you never know. That's why we're seeing a lot of volatility is because, again, there's a lot going on. The government shutdown is also something that really impacts the market. And so those are really the ones that I'm going to be watching. Again, that is CoreWeave, ticker symbol CRWV, Oklo, that's ticker symbol OKLO, Alibaba, which is ticker symbol BABA, and then Hood, which is Robinhood, which is ticker symbol HOOD. In addition to, of course, Palantir and Nvidia, I have a list, and I've talked about literally all of these stocks in my previous videos. So if you want more stock options, like if you want to maybe create a watch list, or if you're just starting off and you don't know what stocks to watch, go ahead and watch some of my previous videos and see if you can put together a watch list. I actually just created one with 20 stocks, so that's one that could be helpful. But before I hop off of this, because I am going to go to the gym before I start my work day, I did want to talk just quickly about not being someone who is really just focused on money, and not being someone who is like every single time you make a little bit more money, excuse me, anytime you make a little bit more money, you're focused on spending more money. I think one of the biggest things, and one of the things that I've talked about a lot lately with my friends, with my family, is just being someone who is a good steward of their money. So whenever you make money, even if it's from your regular job, or if you're, taking some options contracts and making a little bit of extra money off of that, that doesn't necessarily mean that the second that you do that, you go out and you splurge or you buy a bunch of stuff. We are living in a very consumer focused environment. All we see all around us is things that are supposed to make us want to buy more things, whether it be social media. So all social media platforms are now also ways to actually get you to click on stuff. And I don't know how many of you it's happened to you, but sometimes I would be scrolling, and then like all of a sudden I accidentally click on something, and it takes me to like Amazon, or like to like some site to buy whatever it was that the post was like advertising. And I'm like, I'm not even like, but this is how they get us, because now we're on the site. Next thing you know, all of a sudden we need this thing, and you end up buying more stuff that you don't actually necessarily need. And so I wanted to use this time to close the video by saying that, if you are thinking about, doing some options plays, and you do end up making a little bit more money, actually reinvest that money. Don't splurge it. Don't go, buy stuff that you don't need. Don't give into consumerism, because the reality is that we pretty much have, or we should have, our basic necessities. And on top of that, anything that you get on top of your basic necessities is cool, but you don't necessarily need it. And so in order to build wealth, and in order to be financially safe and feel good, make sure that you're living below your means, especially in the building phase. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm not saying that you can't ever, buy yourself something nice. I'm not saying that you can't ever upgrade your car. I'm not saying that you can't ever go out and buy yourself a nice, a nice expensive meal. But what I am saying is that there's a time for that. And usually when you're first starting off, when you're learning a new skill set, when you're making a little bit extra money, when you just got a raise, whatever the case may be, we tend to immediately think, oh, I got more money coming in my pocket, so let me go spend, or let me go buy that thing, or, don't do that. Don't do that. Save your money. Better yet, don't save your money, invest your money, make your money grow for you. And then once you feel like you're in a comfortable state, once you feel like you do have a little bit extra to get that nice thing or, upgrade your car, whatever it is, then go for it. But don't do it before it's time for you to actually make those moves, because next thing you know, you're going to spend all the money that you just got. You're going to be living above your means, and then something unfortunate happens and you're back to square one. So I don't want to see that happen to any of us, including myself. So this is also a reminder for me. And yeah, that is it for today, guys. If you like videos like this, go ahead and subscribe for more. Leave me any comments in regards to any of the stocks that you're personally watching, that you're trading options with. These are just some examples of ones. There probably are other ones. I mean, you guys saw my list that I will probably be looking at. And if there's an opportunity, I'll hop in. And yeah, I'm really, really excited for the month of November. Hoping that the volatility kind of slows down a little bit. And yeah, we're wrapping up 2025. So if you've been along the journey with me since the beginning of the year and you're still here, I'm very, very grateful. And if you're new here, this is a channel that I started in January of this year, and I've honestly really loved not only getting on here and posting. I find it entertaining, I find it fun, I like doing it, but I've also been able to make some pretty cool connections with people who come back and watch my videos and leave me comments, and we have conversations about things that we're seeing. You don't always have to agree with what I'm saying, and I don't always have to agree with what you're saying. That's the beauty in having your own opinion. But yeah, I'm really just grateful for the people that come back and watch, that subscribe, and that are following along for my journey. All right, y'all. I hope you all have a beautiful Monday, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.